I've got info straight from the source.
Ooh. You know what, Mark? If this is an
the
episode
source.
about the ridge,
Yes.
should I just...
What are you doing?
I just wish this thing was like
Do you want this one instead?
They're both the same height, Heather.
I didn't know that was your problem.
Yeah. It's
Do you
just
want to
like,
change chairs?
Set
This one's
that
higher.
down.
Oh, that's true. It is.
Oh.
No, because then you would have that problem. I gotta
Yeah,
get.
but I don't get irritated by it and throw my nose on it. I'm not gonna get irritated by it.
No, it's fine. I love this. I love it.
It's too high. Is that your problem? Take this chair.
No, I don't want the.
There's another desk chair over there too.
There are
No,
multiple
it's
ways
fine.
to solve this issue. We
It's
could give you a
fine.
pillow.
No, it's fine.
Oh, no, I got it.
No, it's fine. I'm not. We're already recording.
It's too late. You're getting a pillow.
Come back. I don't want to. I don't want to.
Pick it up.
That's not gonna do anything.
Yes, it will. Courtney and I do it all the time. Look at that. Yeah, Courtney and I do this all the
Wow.
time for Paranormal Unexplained. We know.
Oh.
Now adjust it so it's the same problem all over again.
Oh, for the love of. This is Monsteropolis, a show about anomalies, legends, and monsters.
Oh, yeah, yes.
I'm one of your hosts. My name is Seth Breedlove, and joined as always by my pal, Mark Matzke.
Hey, greetings.
Chestnut Ridge
Chestnut Ridge.
expert.
Oh, my.
Oh,
You're not supposed to accept the word expert. That's part of the
Okay.
dogma of
Knowledge
today's
base. Knowledge.
collector of knowledge.
Collector of knowledge about the Chestnut Ridge, Mark Matzke.
Yes. Chronicler of...
Ooh.
I like
nice.
it.
I like
Yes.
that. Chronicler
Chronicler
of the strange.
That's me.
Yep, and also chronicler of she's
Oh,
Heather
boy.
Mosier.
Hi.
This is a show about anomalies, legends, and monsters. I think I left that off the last show. So if you were listening, like, what is this show about?
Yeah.
Now you know.
The other shoe never dropped.
Yeah.
They listened for 45 minutes.
Even
Like,
after I shoehorned two of us in there, we couldn't. It never fell.
Oh, boy.
That was a deep cut joke. About
that
an
sure
episode.
was.
Yeah.
Whew.
So anyway, this is a show about weird stuff, and
Indeed.
you can send us your emails about weird stuff to monsteropolismail@gmail.com, and we'll read it live on the show. We would love it if you would all send us many emails, as it basically makes it so we don't have to do research.
Yes, and we learn new things every time.
We do, yeah. Buckled was one of
Buckled, yeah.
Buckled was one of the things we learned on the last episode. And we've also learned about international ghost names,
Yes.
which is a big part of the show now. So anyway, send us mail, Monsteropolis mail. Leave us a review on iTunes. We need to offset the flurry of bad reviews.
We've gotten a couple positive
Okay.
iTunes reviews.
2-3
like,
stars.
for real.
Okay. What did they said? Do you know? Can
Well,
you just
they were
kinda, like,
in
paraphrase?
summary.
Mhm.
No, let me
Uh-oh.
set the stage. For us, a positive reviews subject line.
Oh no!
No, this is as close to a literal interpretation as I can get. It
Yeah.
says something like,
Not that bad.
"No, close." It's the actual verbatim quote is better than nothing.
Yeah. There you go. Hey, it could be nothing. Wait, what's the context?
Well,
No podcast on Earth?
Yeah, like the what would be worse is if we were not doing any sort of podcast.
How many
content.
stars did they give for that review?
Oh, I think 5.
Whoa.
I mean, both of the new positive ones were in direct response to our pleas for positive.
Please.
So
It's because of Ted's review. They were inspired.
I think so.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Great review, Ted.
so we got a couple where like mixed into the actual body of the review was, well, you asked for positive reviews, so here's one.
I got it.
Aw,
You
thanks
guys
for
are better
listening.
than nothing
Better than
happening.
nothing.
Yeah. That's true. if it's like a toss up between us and like a dial tone,
Right.
please,
Yes.
like I think
Choose us.
for the most part we're gonna be better. For the most part.
Oh man.
Could we get more positive reviews if we added sort of a fresh beat on
Perhaps.
the show that's just like kind of in the background?
And then
we're
once
just
in a while,
talking.
they'd mix it.
Yeah.
And it's just good change.
But it would be unexpected. Like
right.
you'd be in the middle of talking, all of a sudden you're like, yeah.
Wait, have we tried the
three of us would
subliminal
just start
stuff?
bobbing our heads.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do subliminal stuff like they did at the movies
Oh.
with popcorn and drinks and stuff.
Oh, that's Fight Club. The movie Fight Club. All right. Anyway. Let's talk about other things.
Do you have any announcements to
Better
make?
than nothing.
Better, yes, please. Keep in mind, it could be worse. It could be this.
Do I have an answer? Dude, if it was 45 minutes of you and I just like checking our phones, that'd make my life a lot easier. Yeah, announcement wise, we do know as of this morning that the Mothman Festival is officially canceled. No Mothman Festival again. We are making up for it by, and this hasn't been announced yet, but we are making up for it by adding a Friday night world premiere of the Mothman Legacy to Braxy Bazaar. So Friday night is now an event. And we're going to show the Mothman Legacy at the Elk Theater. We're trying to figure out what the situation is going to be in terms of like tickets and if it's going to cost or not going to cost. Either way, we're going to show Mothman Legacy. I'll probably do a Q&A. And then on Saturday at Braxy Bazaar, we'll be there all day. And we have an event poster. We have all sorts of fun stuff coming. So if you're interested in seeing Mothman Legacy on the big screen, it has not yet been shown on a big screen. So this will be the first event where it'll play. So come watch. What's happening out there? What's going on?
Someone showed up.
Oh, okay. So anyway, be there for that. It's going to be a wild
What are the dates on that?
September 11th and September 10th.
10th. Yeah.
10th and 11th.
Start at the 11th.
But
And
be
then go
there, Sutton, West Virginia, at the Flywoods Monster Museum in the surrounding area. A lot of our friends will be there, and since there's no Mothman Festival, I can't think of a better way to celebrate than to celebrate the Flatwoods Monster.
Yeah.
Come hang out with us in Sutton. One of my favorite towns, fast becoming one of my favorite places in the United States.
Wow.
I think we explained on Paranormal Unexplained that it's like a second home almost for
Yeah.
STM.
Yes, it is. We've been there a lot in the last couple of years. So anyway, and then the other thing we've got going on is the squad, our YouTube channel membership. Come join the channel and watch.
Become a squad member.
Become a
Yeah.
squad member. Watch
Card-carrying squad member.
Beyond the
Ooh, there are
Trail.
cards.
Not yet. We're working on it. It's in the works.
It's in the works.
Maybe no.
It's a vaccination thing on the other side of it.
Oh boy.
Yes,
Oh,
Indrid Cold signed it. I'm totally safe.
There comes the negative reviews.
Nothing is better.
That was
Yeah,
better
right.
than nothing.
You see how freeing that is once you know that anything
just
you
one
say is better than nothing.
Yeah.
The the other thing I wanted to mention though is that we do have a lot of new stuff coming to Squad, and as long as we're gonna get into the topic of this show, we're gonna segue by announcing something that we haven't announced anywhere else yet, and that is we are doing a new. So, On the Trail of was originally conceived as an episodic format thing. Like it was always supposed to be episodic. We had to get off that train due to some of the projects not making their money back, but we love On the Trail of, and it has a massive audience. It's just, anyway, logistically, regardless, On the Trail of Bigfoot The Ridge, coming next year from Small Time Monsters. Episodic series will post for squad members completely ad-free in 4K, and then be followed the following week by the ad-supported version on free YouTube. This is going to be, I hesitate to say a mini-series. It could potentially become an ongoing, and it would depend on how successful it is. But for a long time, I've teased the fact that I really wanted to revisit the Ridge, and I've even talked about doing like a straight-up Invasion on Chestnut Ridge sequel. This is going to be as close as we can get to that. This will be an ongoing, and we've already got some of the original folk involved again. So Sean Forker, Eric Altman. Actually, Sean wasn't in the first one, but he was in On the Trail of UFOs on the Ridge. So it's a reunion in a way of a lot of the people that we work closely with. And then obviously you can't make anything about the Chestnut Ridge without having Mark Matzke, who I haven't even asked until this moment.
No pressure. Will you be involved?
Oh, let me check. Yes.
Check your schedule. Yeah. And B, Stan Gordon. I probably should have reversed those. A, Stan Gordon.
That's yes.
B, Mark Matzke.
Yeah.
And that'll
I'm Stan Gordon's handler.
Yeah.
So
His
it's
agent.
fine either way you go.
It's sort of a gimlet. Never mind. So
We come with meatballs. You're gonna have to. No, seriously,
No,
you're
for
gonna
real.
have to have Stan Gordon's
Stan will bring you meatballs.
Really?
They're really
right
good.
out of the crock pot.
Yeah,
They're
What?
phenomenal.
That sounds
a
awesome.
delight.
Yeah, in the Monster Bash days, he would bring them for the organizers and like the other vendors.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where he was being asked by them, "Did you bring your meatballs this year?" So he felt as if he had to. Then you get
That's awesome.
obligated into these sort of things.
And he would
I'm
bring
up for
us
that.
some too.
Yeah.
It was a treat.
Just reminiscing.
Yeah.
Good old
I
days.
still have one frozen in my
Just
my
one?
freezer.
A
Yeah.
solitary meatball?
Just kidding.
Oh,
It's like the pear. It's like the pear that we took out
you're
of
waiting
town.
to throw it at Andy.
Fermented pear.
But anyway, it's
Ridge,
exciting. I'm
yeah.
excited to dive
Sweet.
back into episodic content with On the Trail of, and hope, the hope is that it would be collected eventually and released through 1091 down the road, probably sometime late next year. But it's up in the air as to how many episodes or whatever. But I could do it forever. I've talked to Sean for a couple of years about doing something like this. It's just this. I came into work on Monday. This is legit how this happened.
Okay.
That was the day you came in, right?
Yeah.
I came into work on Monday and had the idea on my drive from home to work, which is less than 3 minutes. And by the time I got to work, I had already sent Sean an email, sent Eric a message on Facebook, and called Stan Gordon.
Yep.
Everyone was on board.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, it's greenlit. And that's
Nice.
a pretty good example of how STM functions.
I think when I walked in, you were on the phone with Stan.
Yes.
I got here at like 9 or 10 or
Yep.
whatever.
You got in at a little after 9, I think,
Yeah.
and Stan was on the phone when she came
Wow.
in.
Fresh off his appearance on Coast to Coast AM.
I'm on Coast to Coast. Oh, by the time you listen to this, it'll be over. But I'm on Coast to Coast which would be, this episode will already be out by the time that you hear
Oh,
this. But I'm
cool.
doing Coast with George Knapp this Sunday night from 1 to 3.
Oh, nice.
So fun time.
Nice.
Nothing better than being up from 1 to 3 a.m.
That's the reason I am a Coast insider, is so
you
that I
can
don't
listen
have
to it later. I wish I could be a Coast insider as a guest.
Yeah.
You could appear whenever you want.
Right.
All right. So anyway, let's talk about the Chestnut Ridge. This is Mark's episode. I don't know what we're gonna do here.
Well, I thought there's a lot of ways to go about it, obviously, and we've covered in depth, I think, what it is and where it is. But what I wanted to get into, because you hear this a lot, that things never really stop on the Ridge, and I wanted to produce just a few cases that illustrate that activity on the Ridge really doesn't ever stop. And like using 2020 as a case study, there were things happening that are very ridgy every single month from January all the way through. And now, and a lot of this I'm drawing from Stan's website, which is Stan Gordon's UFO Anomaly Zone, which I wish there was a T-shirt for that. But
My favorite
I would love that.
Stan Easter egg or trivia is that when you call his home, the answering machine picks up, and it's like, "You've reached the home of Stan Gordon, UFO Bigfoot researcher," and then it goes into this whole thing about UFOs and Bigfoots and leaving your message, and that's just his home answering machine.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, that's great. And so, it stands then that he continues to get calls. He brought that up on the air on Coast, that his phone rings just all the time. And up until like this year, let's start in this year and then we'll work backwards to 2020. But like in April and May of 2021, there have been at least 2 Thunderbird sightings. But I say Thunderbird, it's in air quotes, because the flying creature that's described is really not like a giant eagle or like a big bird. Mm-hmm. It seems the one that was seen this year on 3 occasions is really more of the pterodactyl or pteranodon type of entity. And in one case, like a 8 to 10 foot wingspan pterodactyl chased a woman into a building. And this is the one that I was in April. That it chased this woman into a building. She saw it coming from somewhat of a distance and was sort of transfixed by it and rooted to the spot. As it got closer to her and it appeared to be threatening, she thought, maybe I should not be standing outside. I should run into the nearest building. She had gone for some appointment. It's not specified in the report. But the thing that caught her attention the most were the eyes of this creature that she described as fiery or red. And so it had it had its talons up as it was flying towards her. She ran into this building, and the person that she was having the appointment with then reported an independent sighting of something very similar just a day or two, maybe a week later, in the same general area. He evidently had an extraordinary daytime sighting of this thing, like flying up on and actually landing on a chimney. Same thing with like red, orange, fiery eyes, and a notable lack of feathers, but it had flown. So it's interesting to me that got classified as a Thunderbird report, because it really doesn't sound like a classic Thunderbird, which, is more of just a enormous, regular, natural bird. But what's interesting then is that's April. In May of 21, a woman had a sighting of a very similar creature, although this one appeared to be quite larger than the one that was seen in April. And the weirdest part of this is that the woman who saw it was right in the middle of downtown Greensburg, Pennsylvania, which is it's not like a huge city, but it's fairly urban, where she had this particular sighting and just looked up into the sky and saw this thing fly past. She estimated that its wingspan was the length of 2 cars. So that's quite a bit different, than 8 to 10 feet. So it was seen at a distance, and then there was what came while Stan was literally typing the report out the next day. Somebody called his hotline to report another sighting of almost certainly the same thing, but the day prior to the day the woman had her sighting in downtown Greensburg. So stuff is happening like this.
What color
right up to
is it?
Like a jet black, typically.
It's not the first report of something matching that description in the area, right? Keystone State Park?
Keystone, yeah.
What year was that? You know the one I'm talking about? The one we interviewed
Aaron. Yeah.
What's the line? What's Aaron's line?
Judas
Priest.
I still say that a lot.
Yeah. Well, I knew Andy was a big fan of that one.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't go over from the pulpit very well, I have to say.
You can get away with it.
People don't get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's that. And then also this year, and what makes me crazy is that we missed this by less than a week. Because we were down there in the Ridge area around Champion, PA. Yeah. We left on the 12th. On July 18th was a classic mystery boom experience, which was heard all throughout South Greensburg, Jeanette, Youngstown, Latrobe, and Hannastown. We were in all of those areas the week prior, and then Stan got independent reports about this. People were posting on social media. Did anybody hear that loud boom? And just on and on. So this is something that's classically been reported along the Ridge, and this is just the most recent.
Are those mystery booms heard? Is that a common occurrence all over? Because like we have here in Wadsworth, we have a Wadsworth community group on Facebook, and it's pretty much just a lot of people gossiping about each other.
Yeah,
Right.
But one of the jokes, like running jokes in the in the group, is this constant. People are constantly asking about the boom. Like, did you hear that boom this morning? And apparently, like, it's just constantly happening here, and it made me wonder, like, is that just a constant?
Well, yeah. I mean, certainly there's booms all over the place, and groups like the one that you describe help to identify what the sound was, because sometimes it's an exploding transformer.
Yeah.
Do you remember the boom I heard in the Hoh rainforest?
No, I don't.
Maybe you didn't hear about it.
Mm-mm.
Do you remember the clearing? I keep looking at Andy like he's going to answer me, but do you remember the clearing with the river where I had gone off by myself while you guys were, after we took, and I went down into that, the big riverbed, and I was out way far down from you guys. I was down there by myself, and there were two booms, and both of them, when they happened, shook the ground. You felt it reverberate underneath the ground. And I came back, and I know I told Aaron about it, but it was like a really bizarre, it sounded like it was taking place under the ground.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the one I've talked about at River Styx, where I thought, like, in my head at that time, I was like Bigfoot related, because I thought maybe it was like someone taking a rock and slamming it into the ground. But anyway, I also have mystery boom experiences, guys.
That's awesome.
Everything.
You got it all.
I got it all.
You are an experiencer.
I'm the most experienced experiencer.
Yeah, but I mean, there is, like in the cases of Mount Shasta, that's one that's really associated with mystery booms in the Sierra Nevada range. Like in the classic book Bigfoot by B.N. Slate and Alan Berry. That's the first place that I heard of, like, people hiking in the mountains and in the Pacific Northwest, or at least Northern California, and hearing not only mystery boom sounds, but like protracted sounds that mimic some sort of excavation work taking place deep underground, things like that. And that in that book, it lumps everything in, right? It's like mystery booms, underground sounds, UFOs, telekinetic powers that Bigfoot has, and things of that nature. So, yeah, I think there is, the boom idea is something that happens all over the place. And to the point of Stan's report on his website, he felt as if he had cross-checked a lot of different, like, mundane explanations, like firecrackers, or like I know in some places in Geauga County, people like to shoot at explosives just for fun, you know?
Why not?
Sure.
And when they hit the target, something really blows up, and you can almost feel it if it's close enough. So it could be any number of those things, but this one was heard across a really large territory. I mean, when we talk about the Ridge, I think it's always important to just review the fact that it's not like it's a 10-mile square radius. That's the Ridge. We're talking about, really it could be anywhere along this 100-mile stretch of mountain ridge.
And that includes that area around. I mean, most of the sightings are taking place in areas not on the Ridge.
Correct. Yeah.
Because the Ridge isn't really inhabited, right? Like, I mean, there's houses and things on. We've stayed in a house on the Ridge, but it's not It's the towns and things that line the ridge on
Correct.
either end where the activity takes place.
Yeah, I mean it's very. You can drive like over the ridge, and there's some country cabins and homes up there, but it's not developed as much as you might think.
Yeah.
The villages and towns are on either side in the valleys. So you're right. I mean, Chestnut Ridge is a really specific area. And what also gets named a lot is the Laurel Ridge, which is the next ridge immediately to the east of Chestnut. I mean, you see one from the other
And it's
when
hard
you're
to
there.
figure out what you're looking at unless you know exactly
Right.
what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm. So the reports that Stan collects truly are from all over, I would say, western Pennsylvania. Because some of the most famous, like the Bigfoot with the orb story, that was actually Butler County, which is northwest of Pittsburgh. So that's not even close to the ridge per se, but it's all mountainous, fairly wooded, and most importantly, I think the river cuts through there on the way down to Pittsburgh.
And Morgantown plays a role
Sure.
in that in West Virginia. We drove right by the gate to Chestnut Ridge Park
Oh, wow.
when we were in Morgantown.
Yeah.
Went up to Cooper's Rock State Park, which apparently is like right there near the ridge. We drove over the ridge to get there.
Yeah, and Morgantown is then usually thought of as the southern terminus of the ridge. And like Indiana County is up the north.
And they're massively coal mined, by the way, because I've been following that train of thought, and there's a lot of like big coal mining history with that ridge.
Sure. And I think to me that's part of, that's a potential explanation for mystery booms or underground sounds. Anytime you have coal mines, especially ones that have been abandoned, things could in fact be collapsing, that you could hear like a shift or a tremor of some sort knocks things loose.
Isn't there a mine in Pennsylvania that's like on fire constantly?
Yes. Yeah.
My mom loves that story.
Isn't it's in Pennsylvania though?
Correct.
Centralia.
Yeah, that's right.
Centralia, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And it's they just closed that highway, the old highway that used to go in there that was covered in graffiti. But there was one, as of a couple of years ago, there was like one family still living there. But for the most part, what happened was the mine caught fire, and then there was a town above the mine, basically. And like the road started melting. There was fire. Like it
Smoke would be coming up from cracks in the road
It's
and the
still
sidewalk.
burning.
It would be like if Mineral City caught fire. It's like that same kind of like size of a town. I always think of Mineral City because that's a coal mining town. I don't know if you guys have driven through Mineral City out near
It's been a long time.
Route 800 heading out toward like Atwood Lake. But it's that same size town. And I mean, when you think about that, that's pretty crazy that a town or Fouke. So it'd be like if Fouke just disappeared overnight.
Yeah.
Like it's that same kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Going back to the coal mine thing too, like in the Ridge specifically, it's Paul Johnson's book in particular where he spends a little bit of time talking about the fact that there's actually ghost towns along the Ridge, if you know the right places to look, because of the industry, the coal mining industry. These little burgs grew up around the mine shaft, and when those went away, the towns went away. And he gives fairly detailed instructions as to how to get to those places still in his book, which is cool.
Is there still stuff like structures?
Yeah. Foundation stones or even just like iron implements and things that they would have used to pull stuff out of the ground. It's pretty wild.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, there's a Bigfoot sighting also May 20th of 2021.
Yeah.
In Fayette County. Eric Altman actually personally investigated this case, and it's up. The full report is up on the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society site. But this was a classic road crossing sighting. Two people were in the vehicle. From somewhat of a distance, they saw something huge on 2 feet run across the road. And what really grabbed Stan's attention, I know, is the fact that after the sighting, the car that they were driving in started to experience electronic anomalies and failures, and then it kind of righted itself and was working all right again. So there seems to be some sort of electromagnetic something or other to what happens in these sightings along the ridge as well. And that's something that is all throughout Invasion on Chestnut Ridge, as well as the UFOs of the Ridge case file, is the connection to power sources. And, there's a lot of them along the ridge, everything from high tension wires to what we've been talking about with the mines and railroads, even though those are not as used as they used to be. There's all these sources, not to mention then water and hydro electric sources as well. So all of that is to say that up to the present moment, things can happen on the ridge at any moment. And it's, as generally holds true, it's typically the people who aren't looking or who didn't buy it at all. And that's one of the cool things about Eric's case file that's on his website, is that there was a family on a porch nearby where they were investigating the sighting, and they went over and asked if they could talk to him a little bit, and they almost got laughed at. That is Eric and his team, because of the people who lived there said, we've never heard of anything like this ever happening around here before, which is really, it's wild to think that you can go probably from person to person among the residents of that area, and some will have heard of this. It's probably part of their family history.
Highly unlikely, though.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Just because there was a lot of press given to, especially in the 70s, to Bigfoot and high strangeness in the area.
It depends how long they've been there, I guess.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it I don't know. I find that so strange. But then again, it's hard to think of it from an insider's perspective. We're outsiders who are very aware of the UFO Bigfoot connection to the Chestnut Ridge, whereas people that live there, it's just their house. I mean, I guess we've dealt with that with things like Minerva. How many people in Minerva were aware of the Minerva monster, despite the fact that it was a huge deal?
Yeah.
How many people there were aware back in 2016
right.
or whatever, 2015? Yeah. I don't know.
The lost gold is what they wanted to talk about.
Just keep making lost gold festivals and jazz. keep pumping those jazz festivals out. I'm not salty about it.
No.
Yeah, not at all.
What else do you got there?
Well, I've got a rundown of 2020.
Yeah. Let's go.
So let's race through 2020.
The highlights.
Yeah.
Highlights.
So in January 15th, motorists looking toward Latrobe observed a large object in the sky that looked like two large aircraft side by side, and at the very same moment there was a mystery boom report. Same month, less than a week later, this was an early morning sighting, 7:35 a.m. A man traveling northbound saw a gray triangular-shaped UFO. One very bright light appeared to be in the front of the object, which was compared to an LED type of light. It had that same quality to it. And the comparison was made to stealth bomber in what was being sighted. The driver slowed down to get a better look at the object, but it just vanished. Just winked out and was gone. Let's go to February. Dan Hageman of the BORU Research Group received numerous sightings of cylindrical and egg-shaped objects around Butler County.
Egg-shaped?
Yeah.
Tic Tacs.
Mm-hmm. Mint Tic Tac.
Yeah.
So this is kind of cool because it was one of those cases where the objects actually change shape, and that's sort of the Tic Tac description as well.
Yeah.
A sphere emitted from the cylinder and two objects move off in different directions. And what's so cool about that is what I just remembered this at this very moment is when we were doing interviews for Invasion. That was mentioned on a couple of occasions where people had UFO sightings where either one craft came out of another.
Yeah.
Or there were
docking and undocking.
Numerous smaller things kind of joining up with a larger
lights departing.
Light.
Yeah.
So that hasn't changed at all. Another UFO report in February. In March, on a trail near Rector, hikers heard a strange loud sound they could not explain The sound appeared to follow them from a distance.
Hmm.
So that takes on a little different quality than just a mystery boom.
Yeah.
Like the idea of being followed or observed is one that you do hear more often than not. It seems like on the ridge that there's some type of consciousness attached to the weird object that's being observed at the moment. Like in the case of the Thunderbird before, like the very first cases that I led off with, at least in the case of the man who saw the creature that landed on the chimney of that house, he felt that he had been noticed. And of course, the lady who got chased by one felt like she had been quite obviously noticed as well. And there's that sense of things changing when you give your conscious attention, like a lot of these anomalous light reports. Once it's spotted, there's a way of interacting with it that, like,
Intelligently.
Right.
And is there a history just of like the boom thing? Can you think of anything folklorically that stands out that kind of like connects to that?
No, not that I can think of right now. The lights moving.
Well, yeah.
That, but not the boom. I haven't looked into that.
Okay. Do that.
Okay.
Let's
All
make
right.
that the next project.
Noted.
So then also in March 24th, in classic location along the ridge in Derry Township. So a lot of stuff happens in Derry. There was a track line that was discovered, smaller in stature, like 8 to 10 inches long, 3 to 4 inches wide, and the old ridge standard 3-toed tracks. Both right and left tracks were observed, and they were seen in wet ground in the vicinity of the Chestnut Ridge. So that's all that is said about it there. So that's, that has the detail of the 3-toed track, which is very Chestnut Ridgey.
I didn't know that still went on, honestly.
Yeah. Huh. And what's really interesting to me about that is that today I would imagine if you were going to hoax tracks, most people would hoax 5-toed tracks.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think they would be that into it to say, let's make 3-toed tracks like the 70s.
It's a deep cut.
70s flap. So I don't know what to make of that. Going forward to May 27th, this one's really interesting. This incident took place a few miles away from Donegal, which is essentially where we stayed when we were there in July. Witness was watching some deer in a field across the road. It was dark. There was some illumination. The deer were suddenly frightened by something. They ran from the area. Moments later, the witness saw a large, tall, humanoid figure over 6 feet tall, was very dark. The arms were bent and did not swing as it moved. The movement of the figure was unusual in that it did not seem to be running, but rather gliding across the field. It moved extremely fast, crossing about 75 yards in 10 seconds, moved out of sight, and was not seen again. Witness did not know what was seen, but was sure it was not human.
Yeah.
So this, too, is a feature of some ridge reports where the anomalous figure that is seen doesn't even move naturally. Like there's these other reports that we've heard that Stan has shared with us at conferences and so forth, but like stick figure, like super skinny.
Or like the creature with no head.
Yeah.
Wasn't there like a no-headed
No
thing?
head, yeah. And when they're spotted, they do not seem to move in a natural manner is the easiest way to say it. Like there's some, like in this case, it had bent arms, but it didn't swing while it was running. And if anything is running on 2 feet, that we're aware of, it's counterbalancing with arm swing. So what would run with, like a static upper body and your lower, you're like fast enough to cover that amount of ground. It's really unsettling because of how odd something like that would be. May 27th, 3 witnesses traveling during daylight in a rural area of Cambria County saw something lying down about 120 feet ahead of them. They were quite surprised to see that it was a black panther. that rose from the ground, looked right at them, ran up a hill by a high-tension power line. The animal was described as jet black, body 4 to 5 feet long, at least a 3-foot-long tail. And that's not the only Black Panther report from 2020, which I think is pretty wild.
They're migrating. They've returned.
June 10th, back in Derry in Westmoreland County, a man saw something he was sure was a black panther. He spotted it from about 80 yards. The body looked to be about 4 feet long and about a 3-foot tail and all black. Now, the thing about that, I think, is that like black cats, when you see them out in the wild, just out in somebody's yard from a distance, really do look bigger than they are. You know, and cats can stretch and can look a lot bigger than they are. So that one, you know, I kind of shrug my shoulders at. It could have just been a bigger than normal feral cat. But there's one report coming up. I don't know if it's close to here or not, but it's a super up close sighting of a black panther. I mean, namely, it was a guy had his garage door open and he was out in his yard working on something, came into his garage, saw a movement like just out of the corner of his eye, and something ran out from the back of his garage out into the open, and he says a black panther. He was that close that it was huge, and he could hear its footfalls, like the pads of its feet, as it ran away on his driveway. So 2020 was kind of a big year for the black panthers, and we heard about those when we were out on the invasion shoot. When we were out on that, it was Aaron Shakti's interview on that location. The owner of the property said that they had to be careful with their horses because they would hear like panther growls, and they were convinced that there was
Same thing out in Minerva. The alpaca lady told me that they hear and see large felines in the woods around there, and so they have to be careful with the alpaca.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you hear that out in Minerva?
I haven't heard it.
You haven't heard the feline screaming?
I have not heard that yet.
All right, well, stay tuned.
I will.
There'll be more.
All right.
Follow up.
Okay, I will.
There are a number of UFO reports that happened in 2020 in which there was a lot of photographic or video footage that was taken of the incident. And we don't have time to get into all that, but there's like these detailed representations of what people saw, where it was red and where it was sort of acknowledging.
Oh, look, the cameraman on top of it.
Yeah. And that's not unusual in many of these cases, that the people had a close enough sighting to see patterns in the way that the lights appeared and things of that nature. I don't know if it's in this list or not, it probably is, of two people who were in a car and they saw something that was very like close encounters in terms of the type of craft that they saw in the sky. It was flying over an area and was even shooting beams down into the woods. And then there was like this mass exodus of animals coming out in front of their car.
Oh.
Like whatever that craft had done had disturbed all of nature's little pals, and they were running away in terror. And the weirdest part of that story is that one of the animals that one of the witnesses is convinced they saw was something like a wolverine, which is not native to PA.
Yeah.
And that he was floored by that, because he went later, checked out what could that have been that I saw, and he kept going back to wolverine as the animal in question. So that just takes us up to like midsummer in 2020.
So we might need to do a part 2.
Yeah, we probably should.
All right.
Because these are fairly detailed accounts, but it's, as you'll hear, I mean, it's the classic range of UFOs, interactions with strange lights, Bigfoot, electronic anomalies, and mystery booms, Thunderbirds, Black Panthers, you name it. And so what's remarkable is that it's when Stan says like this is ongoing, it really is ongoing. I mean, it's right up to this summer that he's taking reports about things.
Thunderbird.
Oh yeah,
he wanted to talk to me about those when I was on. You heard him. He was talking about them on the phone the other day.
Mm-hmm.
So. We'll get back more. We'll follow up with our chronicler of the strange, Mark Matzke, who is also our Chestnut Ridge correspondent.
There we go.
His beat.
Yeah.
I like it.
All right. Leave us a rating review on iTunes. Mail, monsteropolismail@gmail.com. Make sure to check out the new Beyond the Trail, and there's another one already ready and on the way that's set in northern Oregon or southern Oregon with Cliff Barrickman. That's super fun. It's a fun episode, so you guys are going to like what we have coming for that show. And then Beyond the Trail, The Ridge. Probably doesn't start coming out till next year, but we'll start filming pretty soon. So. That's it for now. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.